Hi, Bhaskar.
Hi.
Such a pleasure meeting you and having you over at INS. Thank you
Likewise,
for your
likewise.
time.
Thank you.
And I'll jump right in. So, Amis is called the best film to come out of the country in recent years. How do you feel about it? And what do you have to say about it?
I feel a little validated because it was a very tough sell to pitch this film.
Okay, and why is that?
Because if you've seen the film, you would know
Yeah,
that it's
yeah.
not
Yeah.
people think that this will be heavily censored.
Huh.
Even though I was very sure that the less we show,
Hmm.
the more chances we'll get of getting this film displayed without any interference from the censors.
Right,
Because it is a film about a taboo subject.
right.
So the idea was to give it a very pastoral look,
Okay.
where nothing much is happening on screen.
Hmm.
But the ideas that are being conveyed in the scene are very radical.
Right.
So censor board cannot cut an idea; they
Yes.
can only cut reel.
Yeah.
So I was, I was very happy that the unintended consequence of this was that people enjoyed the film more.
Right.
Which brings me to a point that the writer Stephen King used to always make about how you can always hint at the monster behind the door.
Hmm.
The moment you show it,
Yeah.
the audience is underwhelmed.
Okay.
Because what they have thought of in their head
Yeah.
is far more fearsome.
Hmm.
So imagination is the best tool to experience whatever emotions they're going through on screen. So that is why I think Amis worked spectacularly well
Right.
with people who don't normally watch this kind of film.
Hmm. Even Anurag Kashyap loved the film and said,
Yeah, I mean he loves this kind of film, so it's
Yes.
also very nice to screen it for him also.
Yes. But what is it about the dark side of things and people and complexities that fascinate you so much?
Well, I have a very bleak view of humanity. I don't expect anything good from human beings.
Okay.
If you consider all the other species on the earth,
Yeah.
I think we are the most destructive species.
Hmm.
And when we go away, we will take away. We've already taken away so many other species with us,
Hmm.
and we seem to be ruled very strongly by our ego.
Right.
So there are two, themes that I try to explore in my work. One
Right.
is to show people a mirror,
Right.
to understand that you are not heroic figures on earth just because you have intelligence.
Yes.
And the second is to keep reminding people that you need to deflate your ego a little bit
Hmm.
and consider yourself part of the earth, just like a baboon or a cow.
Yeah.
Is, So you're
Yeah.
nothing special about you, just because you're intelligent and you can walk on two legs and you have a bigger brain.
True.
So these things are necessary for people to understand, because most of our art is about exalting the human being,
Yes.
as a heroic figure.
Right.
And so these are the things that guide me in my cinema. So you can call them dark, but I call
Yeah.
them more cynical and bleak.
Okay. Okay. And how important is it for you to have new faces in the film?
That depends on the film, obviously.
Okay.
Because if I'm doing a multi-crore film,
Right.
which I hope to do next year,
Oh,
I
wonderful.
cannot pitch new actors.
Yes.
Because I am not a big name myself.
Okay.
So I will need a star, a
Right.
face to pitch to investors to have them confidence to put in the money.
Right.
A film like Amis is different for two reasons. One, it's a very small budget film, and it is a Romeo and Juliet kind of film.
Also, I think when we see new faces and in quotes ordinary faces, it's easier to relate to them.
Precisely, especially in a story like Amis, which
Yeah.
required the audience to view them as these two lovers and not as so and so actor playing this person.
Perfect.
So, which is not the case for, say, an action film you're doing. You want to make sure people understand this is Salman Khan doing action.
Right.
So there are the two approaches, and it's not like I have a rule that I will only work with. I want to work with, of course, big names, so we can attract bigger budgets to our projects.
Right.
But if the situation demands that I cast new people, then I don't hesitate to do it.
Hmm.
I mean, it's my job to then convince the producer why it's
Yeah.
important to cast a new person.
Yes. Yes. Sorry, I'm an old school journalist, so I have
No,
to
no,
write
please,
a question. So while you wrote Players, you have stayed away from the mainstream. Any special reason?
Players was a lot of unlearning for me, because the kind of writing, first of all, I write scripts.
Yeah.
But in Bollywood, the default is narrate script. So I'm not a good talker.
Okay.
And many writers like me or directors, they cannot narrate well.
Okay.
They can write brilliantly. They execute the script brilliantly on screen, but they can't talk or tell a story well.
Right.
So it was difficult for me to adjust to that kind of an atmosphere where there were 15 people sitting around and telling you, Haji, tell your story.
Right.
So I get intimidated. I have stage fright issues also.
Yeah.
but,
Same here.
Yeah. So I overcame that. I
Okay.
realized this is how it works.
Okay.
So one of my friends, Saurabh, he's a narrator par excellence. He really narrates well.
Right.
So I learned from him how to narrate, how to build the mood. And so that really helps, you know, in doing a film like that, where in Bollywood people do not really read a lot.
Yeah.
They want you, because maybe they don't have that much time also. It's
Yeah.
not like, you know, they are bad because they don't read.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a time issue, that is why they want you to quickly narrate the story.
True.
Sometimes you have to do elevator pitches, where
Right.
like in just 2-3 minutes tell your story,
Right.
and try to convince them.
Okay.
So that's how it is working in a big film like Players, a Bollywood film.
Yes.
And it's a long process. It's a
Yeah,
long process
yeah.
because so much is at stake.
Yeah. So you
different
prefer
film.
independent cinema?
I think I did a smart thing by going away from Bollywood that time, because I felt very inadequate that I
Okay.
would be able to, because
Okay.
like I said, I was not a very good narrator.
Right.
Independent cinema gives you a lot of creative freedom.
Right.
You don't have to go around explaining your story to everybody for
Yes.
you to get the money.
Yes.
My first film was mostly crowdfunded
Right.
and made through grants.
Right.
So that freedom I got in independent cinema, which
Okay.
I'm willing to sacrifice now, because I need to like step up my game, do work
Yeah,
in Hindi,
yeah.
make bigger films.
Okay. By bigger films, do you mean mainstream films in quotes?
Yeah, good stories, but which require budget. you know,
Right.
Which require, you know, suppose I'm doing a historical, for instance.
Right.
Now you cannot do it in the budget of an independent film. You can, but you
But
know,
I
the
understand.
scale will be missing.
Yes.
So to get that, you have to do, you know, sort of engage and do
Right.
things the way they are done.
Right.
And I guess that's what makes or breaks a filmmaker, you know, if they can,
Yeah.
if they can or if they cannot.
Right. You know, now OTT has also gone mainstream completely. Big budgets, big stars. So independent filmmakers don't like this fact, and they are now wondering where their outlet would be. So what do you think about it?
So when OTT platforms, when Netflix first came into India, we thought we have cracked the code, because you know,
Yeah.
even small films like mine were getting picked up.
Right.
We're getting paid in dollars.
Right.
My first film's entire budget was recovered in a Netflix deal.
Wow.
So, and they were not looking at pedigree like studios like Ashraj.
Yeah.
We only take films from studios. They were taking good films which are going to festivals.
Hmm.
It was a great time for independent filmmakers.
Hmm.
But it was a very short span.
Very
of time.
short span.
Soon
and
it was
the
shut
bubble
down.
burst.
Because at that time Netflix was being managed from America. Then they had an India office.
Right.
The Indians got in.
Right.
And immediately they reduced the rates that they pay independent filmmakers.
Right.
And yeah, and now they don't, of course, even look at anything which is not Hindi or South Indian languages.
Right.
So that's how it is, and soon it's going to become like television.
Hmm.
So I'd rather engage more with long format
Okay.
for theatrical releases
Mhm.
than have a specific agenda that I will only make films for or series for OTT platforms.
Right. Right. How important is it for you to have films with a very universal approach? For example, you, Reema Das film, you both come from Assam.
Right.
You work in extremely tight budgets,
Mm.
but they're doing so well internationally.
Mm.
Go to top international film festivals. Also, for the reason that they have such a universal appeal. So, is that intentional?
That is because, you know, if you're talking specifically about Assamese filmmakers, our community is very small.
Right.
We probably have about 80 screens where families can go and watch films in Assam.
Hmm.
That's a very small number. 80 screens is what you get
Yeah.
in Andheri,
Yeah.
you know, in Bombay. And we're talking about an entire state here.
Hmm.
So we have to, by necessity, reach out to more audiences,
Right.
either outside Assam or outside India.
Right.
Which means we work on stories that are universal. We don't
Right.
do too many historical that only Assamese people will understand, you know.
Right.
Some old king or whatever
Hmm.
story it is. We do, you know, films about romance or
Yeah.
genre films, basically, which we know will travel.
Mhm.
Because what a Mexican person feels when they're in love, or what an Assamese person feels when they're in love, is the same.
Yeah.
Because they are humans.
Yes.
So the idea is to work with universal themes so that we
Okay.
can expand our market and, you know, get through subtitles
Right.
and having bigger audiences.
Yes. But what is it happening in Assam that, we're seeing emergence of so many young directors from there?
Yeah, that's
Suddenly,
great. That's great. Yeah,
you
that's
know?
great. Yeah, but again, like I said, the market can only support so much of cinema,
Hmm.
and it's not very different from the mainstream market for Bollywood.
Right.
The films that succeed in the box office at Assam are pretty similar in the way they are created and mounted.
Right.
Like set pieces of action,
Right.
song and dance, color, loud.
Yeah.
So there is definitely a market for that. But if you wanted to do a different kind of cinema, it becomes difficult. Doubly difficult
understand.
than if you want to do a independent film, a studied film, a measured film in Hindi. You will still probably attract some money for that. But Assam, it's well nigh impossible unless you have
Yeah.
rich parents or
Yeah.
friends who want to help you
Yes.
out.
Now, this is the first time an international film festival is happening in a small place like Chandigarh. It is It's
Yeah, it's
actually
not a small place.
No, but it's not a metro.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So, how are you liking the festival first? Second, what do you think? Why is it so important to have festivals in smaller towns? For example, we have Anand Dharamshala, we have several in Yamunanagar in Haryana, Uttar Pradesh.
Yeah, yeah.
So, why is it important that film festivals go away from the metros too?
Because it's important for our audiences
Yeah.
to experience all kinds of cinema.
Right.
Because we have a huge misconception about cinema, that cinema is meant to entertain.
Yes.
We have some time, so let's just go and watch a film and get entertained.
Yeah.
So that is not the only reason why one should watch cinema. There are a lot
Yes.
of other feelings you want to experience through art.
Right.
If you look at a painting or read a poem, so you should develop a capacity inside you to be more accommodative on
True.
what your definition of cinema is, what you want from cinema.
Right. Right.
It cannot forever be PR-driven film with a big star and a nonsense script.
Yeah.
But people will go and watch it and come back and say, "Ha, badhiya tha," because you've not been exposed to different kinds of cinema.
Right.
This is just a very limited understanding of cinema,
Right.
and that will come from cinema literacy in society.
Okay.
Of course, our schools and colleges are not expected. I mean, they should.
They
but
should,
they
but
do not. They never talk
yeah,
about how.
there's
to
no art
appreciate
appreciation
art.
classes in
Yeah,
schools
yeah.
also.
So this is something festivals fill in this gap,
Right.
where at least at the minimum, people in smaller towns can go and see different kinds of films, like Gurvinder's films.
Yes.
Instead of just seeing the mainstream Punjabi films.
Right.
That okay, there's a different way of telling a story.
True.
In cinema, so
True.
that eventually strengthens the culture of the place.
Yes.
And that is why I think it's very important, and it's surprising that Chandigarh took so long to figure this out.
Yeah. This is the first time a festival is
Yeah,
happening.
and I wish
there.
it all the best. I've
Yeah.
been to some screenings.
Okay.
I have seen very few local people.
Right.
And that is, to my mind, a little troubling, because
It
if
is.
local people
That's
do not
what I
support
noticed.
the
Yeah.
festival, then it's
Yeah.
not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You can call all celebrities,
Absolutely.
but people are not going and seeing the films.
Yes.
There's no point.
Yes.
But I wish it luck, and it's a great initiative.
Yes.
And I hope to be back next year for
Wonderful.
a bigger edition of this
Yeah.
festival.
And lastly, what's next with you?
Next, there are multiple things happening.
If you can tell me.
Well,
a
I
little
run
about-
I run a small studio called Metanormal.
Okay.
So we've currently finished four films.
Okay.
Our fourth film is just awaiting a premiere.
Feature films.
Yeah, it's a Hindi film.
Okay.
Sorry, English film with Kumaoni language. It's a beautiful art house film
Oh.
called Second Chance.
Right.
Now we are doing one Assamese film. I'm directing a Hindi film.
Okay.
And there's another Hindi horror film in development.
Okay.
So our plate is pretty much full.
Wonderful.
Yeah, with these
Such a
things.
pleasure talking to
Great.
you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.